On the top, directors interpret entrepreneurship and physical governance. Parang bago pa wala sa ano po. Pinupalik ka ba?
Siddharth, inform other students, your friends, to join in this group webinar.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Very shortly, we are going to start today's webinar. We are just waiting for our resource persons to join. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Are,
yes, sir.
Okay.
Arvind sir is also there, Bhagat sir.
Arvind sir is also there. Good afternoon, Arvind sir.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone.
Yes,
I
sir.
will put on my camera. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, I'm Dr. Deepak Bhagat from same department, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bhagat. Pleasure meeting you virtually.
Same here, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think we should start, Dr. Sunil.
Yeah, we can start in the meantime. Let others join.
Let
We can
others
start.
Okay. So I formally start the program. Respected Chairperson, Professor G. Singhaya, Campus in Charge, Nehutura Campus. Today's chief guest, Professor B. Panda, Honorary Director, ICSSR NERC Shillong. Our resource persons, Professor Arvind Kumar, Dean Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and Professor C.H. Ibohol Mete, Director, Center for Entrepreneurship and Skill Development, Manipur. Our invited guests, heads and faculty members of various departments of NEHU, the officers and staffs of NEHU, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon, and thank you all for gracing the third edition of the webinar on Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav webinar series, National Education Policy 2020 towards an equitable and inclusive society. As part of celebration of 1 year of transformative reforms under National Education Policy 2020 and develop appropriate policies and programmatic activities for its successful implementation, the Northeastern Hill University Tura campus and Indian Council of Social Science Research NERC Shillong have initiated a joint program, basically this series of theme-based webinars on different aspects of NEP 2020. As country is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, an initiative to celebrate and commemorate 75 years of progressive India and the glorious history of its people, culture, and achievements, we plan to organize year-round special lectures. The lecture series started on 2nd October 2021, coinciding with the Gandhi Jayanti celebration. I, Dr. Deepak Bhagat, on behalf of the organizing committee, feel very privileged to welcome Professor G. Singhaya, Campus in Charge, Nehutura Campus. Today's chief guest, Professor B. Panda, our resource persons, Professor Arvind Kumar, and Professor C.H. Ibohol Mete, all the invited guests, heads, and faculty members of various departments, all the students, and everyone, to this third webinar on National Education Policy 2020 towards an equitable and inclusive society. Now, to start the program, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Professor C.H. Ibohol Mete, the Director of Center for Entrepreneurship and Skill Development, Manipur University. Professor C.H. Ibohol Mete is Professor of Management in Manipur University, Imphal, and is having more than 28 years of academic and industry experience. At present, he is a member of Advisory Committee for Industry and Social Development, Government of Manipur. He was also the director of Manipur Institute of Management Studies. He earned his MBA from AMU Aligarh, India in 1992. Further, he had completed FDP in Management from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and earned PhD in Management from Manipur University. He had 10 PhD scholars completed under his supervision and also guided a good number of MBA dissertations. He has more than 40 publications in various journals of repute, and he had also presented papers in international and national conferences and seminars. His basic area of interest are strategic management, entrepreneurship, and global business. So with great pleasure, sir, now I would like to give you the forum to address our gatherings. Sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhagat. Respected dignitaries, Professor G. Shanghai, the campus in charge of Tura campus, and Professor B. Panda, the chief guest of today's webinar, the Honorary Director, ICSSR, Northeastern Region Center, Shillong, esteemed resource person, Professor Arvind Kumar, the Dean Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, Dr. Sunil Rowe, other learned faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm good afternoon, you all. In fact, I am just a learner of management and one of the well-wishers for the overall academic change and the development happening in this part of the country. Well, we have already got some insights about National Education Policy, NEP 2020. So it has been started implementing in various universities and institutions from 2022 onwards or even before. And I will be just sharing with you something about NEP, how it is moving ahead with reference to a little bit on the equitability and inclusiveness of the society, and also the overall change agents for the economic growth and development, especially with reference to employability of the youths, entrepreneurship, vocational education, and skill development. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be just sharing with you a few slides. We can spend a few minutes with that. Just a minute, okay. Uh, can, can you just see these slides, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see, sir.
Okay. Well, NEP 2020, I need not to just speak about it much. It has so much of multi-dimensional components in this document. In fact, it has come up as a third major policy document on education in the country. It's coming up almost after around 37 years. Well, we will just sit a bit about our India. In fact, India is envisioning to become a global knowledge superpower. We just would like to be a great superpower. And for that matter, education is the only area where we can focus on. And today we know every country is competing in one way or the other. So that's why the intensity of competition is increasing very, very sharply. That's why India is also supposed to strengthen its own position, and we can just become a big nation. And for that, what I just would like to share is today's youth is tomorrow's future. Any future, what we are just looking forward to in our society, it is very much dependent on the kind of youth's quality we are having. So that is there, and that's why we are to provide the right kind of educations to our young boys and girls. And in fact, India is the youngest country in the world. That means the larger chunk of the youth population is there in India. So that means Indian youths, their aspirations, their standard of living, their employability, all these things are major area of concern for any of the policy planners. And at the same time, India is having so much of diversities, and we need to think of inclusivity of the educations, irrespective of the caste, creed, religions, or the economic variations. So that is also another kind of a challenge in front of all the policy planners. So with that, not we are just having a new education policy, some important agendas which I just would like to share, just to recap the understanding. That is, India, as I said, is envisioning to become a global knowledge superpower in the next few years down the line. So in order to achieve these things, number one, by 2025, 50% of the learners shall have exposure to the vocational education. That is one part. Skill and the vocational related kind of a training is needed. Then the gross enrollment ratio in higher education is to be increased from 26.3% in 2018 to 50% by 2035. That means almost in the next 12 years down the line, we are supposed to have the gross enrollment ratio to 50%. Means almost doubling the present gross enrollment ratio. Then at the same time, we are also just experiencing so much of changes like the skilled manpower requirements in the context of Industrial Revolution 4, where the artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, then Internet of Things, and big data analytics are the order of the day. So that's why the kind of a requirement of skilled manpower, particularly in this kind of a scenario, is altogether a different picture. And by 2040, all higher education institutions shall become a multidisciplinary institution and one MERU, multidisciplinary education and research university in almost every district of the country. That is the kind of a very, very ambitious document we are having in the NEP 2020. Then we all have so many other aspects about the integration of the professional education, establishment of startup and incubation centers, the internationalization of the higher education system, the transformation in the regulatory bodies, and also the multidisciplinary approach in the entire education system. And because of which we are required to have proper designing of the curriculum, the pedagogical innovations, evaluation, and delivery of the things. These are the areas of concern for all of us to situate. And at the same time, we can situate NEP, two components, higher education and school education. School education, there is a little bit of changes. Earlier, it was a 10+2 kind of a pattern in the formal education sector, where the previous discipline, early childhood care education, that is in the social Department of Social and Child Welfare sector, where the what we do call Anganwadis, etc., are taken care of. But in the education, new education policy, all these earlier childhood care education system, it is coming up within the formal ambit of school education. That is called foundational kind of a thing. So Anganwadis, preschool, Bal Bhatikas, all these things are now coming within the ambit of formal education. So that's why it is coming 5 + 3 + 3 and +4. It's called the 15. That means any student who completes 12th standard, it will be taking 15 years. That is what the new education policy talks about. Foundational, preparatory, middle, and the secondary. So keeping these things in the school education, some agendas, integration of early childhood care education with this formal education system, restructuring the school curriculum. That means the backless days, students should be given so much of opportunities and even teaching in their own local language, mother tongue. And at the same time, they should have opportunities of nurturing the creative talents and hidden talents in the students. and they are just keeping the 100% achievement in the gross enrollment ratio in the school level by 2030. 100%. That means, as per the Right to Education Act, whosoever is a student, they should be provided education free of cost up to 10 plus 2 level. Then it can be extended in the higher education too. So holistic development of the education is a one, and the entire curriculum, there is a component for integrating vocational and skill education in the school level too. Starting from class 6 onwards, 6, 7, 8, that component of middle school that can have the opportunity to get exposure in some of the vocational areas too. Then they will be joining in the secondary school later on, class 9 onwards. That is the level 1, level 2, like that. It will be coming up. And then there is a one important component in the higher education, in the NEP, it's about the equitable and inclusive education, learning for all. That is one very important component that we can just sit with, wherein the diversity of people in India can be taken care of so that there could be equitable and inclusive education for all. So, social and educational SEDGs, we have one component, disadvantaged groups, socially and social and educationally, economically disadvantaged groups, SEDGs. And maybe is SC, ST, OBC, women, or particularly challenged people whatsoever. Socially and economically disadvantaged groups, if there is many, then we can just take care of their education. Special education zones even can be established. That is the provision given in the NEP 2020. And Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, they will be just increasing this number, still continuing. Special care for the children with special needs, and National Assessment Survey, it will be taken care of by the National Assessment Center, what we do call is a PARA. That is the provisions given in the National Education Policy. These are some of the steps taken up for the inclusivity of the different sections of the society in the new education policy. That is coming up. That is very, very encouraging. And there may be scholarships and various other ways and means so that all those people in the special category can also be given the opportunity to get the education. The challenge what we are just having in the new education policy, especially in the higher education side, by simply getting degrees, the diplomas, etc., it won't serve the purpose for the economic growth and development of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, for any of the developed nations today, we are just seeing that the developmental things happening in those regions are very much dependent on the kind of a quality of higher education they are having. And that's why some of the concern for this NEP 2020 is the employability of our youths, then the vocational studies and skill development, then provisions for multiple entry and multiple exit, even in the UG and the PG level. Then they will be just introducing the academic banks of credit. And India is to become the global education destination. Internationalization of the higher education, that is another area of concern. Multidisciplinary approach, MOOCs, online courses, Swayam, and all sort of approved online courses to be encouraged. Earlier it was 20% of the total credits can be earned from this kind of a system. Now UGC had approved 40% of the credits can be acquired from various other approved online courses, Swayam, MOOC, etc., etc. Then, as for the research, also they will be just having establishment of national research foundations, etc. So, keeping all these things in mind, we are going to have a few changes. Why these things are required? Because Indian education, higher education system, some facts. Some years ago, out of the Indians working between age group 18 to 24, is only 7% enter university. The gross enrollment ratio, as I said, is a 26.3 in 2018. And UGC report says that out of 86% of the students completing graduation, only 12% go for the post-graduation. Barely 1% takes up the research. And we come across quite a good number of people are dropouts. So that's also another part. That's why inclusiveness of these people, these young people in the ambit of higher education, we need to bring in. That's why some sort of a policy initiative and some sort of a changes are to take place. The conventional way of education, traditional, technical, then vocational and the skill-related kind of a courses could be of very much importance for making our youths more productive, more employable, and finally, they may be able to contribute in the growth of the nation. So that's why we situate about the yardsticks for the gross enrollment ratio, what many of the developed countries are having. US is 88.1, UK is 94, Japan 63. For that matter, China is for 54.4. And now India stands at 26.3. It's relatively lower. That's why India is now envisioning to have 50% by 2035. That's why so much of requirement in the teaching, learning, infrastructural requirements, the teaching faculties, so on and so forth. So that's why that's a big challenge in front of the policy planners. However, they have taken up as a bold step to utilize more than 6% of the GDP for the education, and let's be optimistic, and then at least we may get some sort of a changes coming up in the education sector. So as for the skill development, I just love to share a few aspects on the skill development or the vocational education because it is closely linked with the employability and the overall earning opportunities. That means the students, while learning, they should have the opportunities to earn. Learn and earn kind of a concept that we can also think about in the vocational education system. Because South Korea is a small country, they are providing skill education to almost 96% of the workforce before they join for employment in any of the sector. Whereas Canada, Japan is 80%, German is 75, UK is 68, US is around 52, then Mexico is 24. India, however, she is having only 10%, and out of which formal sector is 4% or informal sector is a 6%. So that means as far as the skill training things are concerned, Indian education system and the entire workforce, we are having only 10%. That's a very, very low. That's why Government of India is giving so much of emphasis on the skill development because our young boys and girls should be readily employable as per the industry demand. So that is what NDP 2020 also is giving a good reflection, reimagining the vocational education, the vocational trade in this entire, this one booklet of NEP 2020, they are mentioning more than 70 times. So that is a very, important area of concern. And as for the employability things are concerned, as per the McKinsey's Global Institute survey, India produces about 3.6 lakh engineers and 6 lakh graduates in arts, science, and commerce together every year. Of them, only 25% of the engineering graduates are readily employable, whereas the general graduates, BA, BSc, and BCom, only 10% is readily employable and 90% is not. That means they are not employable because they do lack some sort of a skill set, maybe the communication skill, maybe the technical skill, the professional skill, human relationship skill, etc., etc. That's why we are to train them to be more employable by giving right kind of a skill training. That way, we can just empower our youths, our young boys and girls for employability, and they can just become a very, very productive workforces, and definitely they may be able to contribute in the growth of the nation. So if they are getting the degree, diploma, or the certificate, but not able to engage themselves gainfully, that's a very, very alarming situation. In order not to have that kind of an unemployment scenario, we need to give them right kind of a skill set for getting employment. So that's why soft skill, the life skill, problem solving, critical thinking, and various other skills of leadership and the human related together, that's required. So human skill, communication skill could be the soft skill part, professional, technical could be in other areas of skills which we can sit with. So these are the four important areas of employability attributes for the graduates that we have to sit with. So in the NEP 2020, when it is implemented, we can just see to it, all these things can be taken care of. There will be multiple entry and multiple exit facilities, but all these things can be implemented in a time, in a phased manner, in a given timeline. So maybe 5 years, 10 years, and so on and so forth. Then active involvement of the industry, keeping in view the industry demand, industry institute partnership is needed, having some sort of a center or the Department of Vocational Studies and Skill Development, startup incubation centers. These are very much important to facilitate our young boys and girls, any kind of a creative talents our students are having. They should have an exposure to get themselves in the commercial arena. And for that, hand-holding supports to be provided from the institution sides too. Then training of the faculty members and the strong infrastructure facilities are again very much important for making the entire dreams to be realized in the true sense of the term. So keeping all these things in mind, we also need to sit with what are our weaknesses. And weaknesses are many because the number of population is very large. And at the same time, approximately around 25 crore of Indian populations are living below the poverty line. So that consists of around 20%. That's why it's a very, very alarming situation for India's policy planners, how to address and overcome this kind of a thing in order to provide right kind of a livelihood support to these people residing below the poverty line. But at the same time, we need to nurture our young boys and girls, talented young boys and girls. And at the same time, we are to take care of the locally available resources so that we can harness the creative potentials of our youths and we can just try to contribute something for the growth of the nation. So vision, we can keep it in the next 2025, next 2030 or 2040, whatever. We should have a vision where we shall be moving. That means we can say the vision, mission, or ambition doesn't matter. But at least let's understand where do we stand today and where shall we want to become tomorrow. So that means the road ahead, that's to be very clear. And in fact, for that matter, NEP 2020 has given the opportunity to think and where the country will be moving. And I believe our nation will become a great nation in the years to come, provided if we just implement this NEP 2020, all the provisions, including inclusivity of the different sections of the society, giving right kind of a exposure to the vocational and the skill development, and with the right intervention of the ICTs in the teaching learning process, the different kind of approaches of amalgamating the different streams of study as a multidisciplinary approach, the way the creative talents hidden in the minds of the young people can be nurtured to the best extent. And that way, we may be able to produce so much number of productive workforces. In fact, before India gets independence, we could able to produce some of the Nobel laureates, including our Nobel laureates, Professor C.V. Raman and all. However, after independence, having about 70 years of or so, we are unable to produce even a single Nobel laureates from India. So that is, again, another area of concern in the research and a whole lot of things. But at the same time, taking care of the special group of people, SDGs, okay, socio-economically disadvantaged groups are also another area of concern that we see to it. So there are much provisions for India to excel in the education sector in the years to come, provided we take up these things in a true spirit of the term. However, to my understanding, the domain for learning for a holistic education is the knowledge, skill, and the values, the attitude and behavior. So that's why three things. The knowledge is the cognitive part, skills is the psychomotor. So simply imparting knowledge is not enough and sufficient for anybody to learn something and to become productive workforce. So skill is another, psychomotor, your comprehensions of doing something. Then finally, your attitude, your behavior, your human relationship skill, and your skills to interact with the people, with your attitude and mindset. That again counts a lot while working in the companies. So that's why these three things, knowledge, skill, and the attitudes or the behavior, that's a very important, and we can just develop these things with a good habit. Definitely, we will be able to do well in this kind of a domain. So some future directions which I would like to share, ladies and gentlemen, is aligning the talent landscape to meet India's vision of $5 trillion economy by 2025. That means India is envisioning to have $5 trillion economy by 2025. Whereas China has already achieved a $15 trillion economy. US is already ahead, and Japan is ahead of us, and we are just coming up as a fourth or a third in the next few years down the line. And for that matter, how about the talent landscape, the manpower that India is having to achieve this kind of a ambitious economic development to take place in our country? So that's why vocational education, skill development could be introduced along with the general education. And for that matter, curriculum, etc., are to be realigned based on the industry demand. And we need to encourage the industry academia partnership, the skill development and employability, because the multiple entry and multiple exit facilities are there. And those economically weaker section, those who are unable to continue the course, okay, after 1 year, they can leave, they will be getting a certificate. Then they will be working somewhere else and come back and then continue. So that's why academic bank of credits, etc., facilities are provided in the NEP 2020. That way, even the families who are unable to spend their children for a longer duration for the education, at least they can spend some years and they can also just work for some years and come back and complete the courses too. That kind of a flexibility is given in the NEP 2020. That is very, very encouraging. And at the same time, introducing the locally relevant vocational courses at the school and the degree level that needs to be emphasized as spelled out in the NEP 2020 document, because of the locally available resources are to be tapped to the fullest extent. Maybe in the Northeast, what are the resources available? What are the resources available in the West? Or maybe in Jammu and Kashmir, or maybe in Kerala, down south, etc. So depending on the kind of a resources available, we can design the locally relevant vocational courses. That's why local adjustment in the education system can also be made available in the NEP 2020, along with the regional language teaching facilities. That needs to be encouraged very well. So I believe with that, many of these segments, smaller segment of the special category group of people can also be encompassed within the domain of the NEP 2020 provisions, and through which they can also learn the things in their own mother tongue, even in the higher education level. And for that matter, some of the engineering courses can also be imparted in the local languages, etc. That is really encouraging, and we need to see to it its benefits in the years to come. So there are various other areas which we can see to it about the soft skill and the life skill development, academic reforms, innovations, etc. Students, faculty exchange program, and even the exchange activities can take place within the India, outside, or even inter-universities or inter-institutional kind of a thing. And at the same time, the curriculums, etc., are to be designed keeping in view the utmost possibility of engaging the students in a productive manner. So that's why internship and community engagements could be another area of concern that we can see to it. That way, we will be knowing better about the different communities, and the true benefits of the educations can be percolated down to different sections of the society. That is what we can just look forward to. So that's why we should make use of the provisions of the NEP 2020 to the fullest extent, so that its benefit will be permeated to different sections of the society. So, ladies and gentlemen, so as for the vocational courses and the skill development, we just would like to focus on areas like vermicomposting, waste management, food processing, even for the bamboo technology. Today, we have seen that entire northeastern India, we are having so much of bamboo products, but is there any universities or institution where bamboo technology or bamboo studies is imparted? I believe hardly one or two, or sometimes not. So that's why we can think of designing this kind of a thing. That's why some community engaging in the bamboo-related areas of the crafts and then various other items, they can also be bringing in the mainstream education by awarding certain appropriate degrees, diplomas, etc. So similarly for floriculture, tourism and hospitality, apparel, fashion designing, cosmetology, digital media, entertainment, film production, these are some of the areas which can be of immense benefit for our young people. So finally, but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, if India is to transform into a true knowledge superpower and realize a future of prosperity and growth, a radical change of the education system with quality and innovation the central is very much essential in the light of the global trends happening. And we know the entire northern region of India is opening it up. The transition highway, transition railway is passing through a larger portion of the any region, and especially Manipur, and it is passing through Myanmar, Moreh, Tamil sector, and beyond. India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway, all these routes are passing through Manipur and other parts of Northeast, and that's why the entire northern region is opening up. It's a link region, and many things are likely to take place in the years to come. So that's why it is believed that this NEP 2020, with the provisions and all sort of activities given in this policy, it definitely will pave a new vista for transforming India into true global knowledge superpower in the next few years down the line. And at the same time, Manipur or the Northeast, the entire Northeast could become a true academic gateway of India to Southeast Asian countries. So that's why all the academic institutions in Northeast should come in a concerted way, and they can think of transforming their entire activities within the ambit of NEP 2020 and able to attract more number of foreign students and can become the globally acceptable educational hub in this region, and at the same time our locally available resources can be tapped to the fullest extent, and the benefits will be given to different sections of the society without any variation. These are the few things I just would like to share. With that note, we may be able to come up to a new height, a greater height, and then we can just visualize to see a changed society in the region. So, ladies and gentlemen, finally, but not the least, the entire world today is in the state of competition mode, and that's why we also shall not be trailing behind. So, for that, I just would like to share one just small story about a gazelle, this animal, just like a deer, in a vast forest. Another is the king of the animal, is a lion. So what these two animals is doing every day. So every morning in a vast jungle, when this gazelle wakes up, it knows that it must run. How fast? Faster than the fastest lion, otherwise it will be killed. Then what happened to this lion, the king of the animals? Every morning when this animal wakes up, when this lion wakes up, it knows that it must run how fast? It must outrun the slowest gazelle. Otherwise, it will die on starving. That means if it is unable to catch its prey, it will die on starving. So, ladies and gentlemen, the point which I just would like to share to all of you is that it doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, we better be running. It doesn't matter we are from a small state or the big state. We are from a small university or a big university, small college or the big college, or from a poor family or the rich family. Doesn't matter. When the sun comes up, we better be running. That means we need to put our efforts well. If we fail to put our efforts well, probably we will be facing the same kind of a fate, either the lion or the gazelle. So it doesn't matter whether it is a lion or the gazelle. If you're not running, the consequence will be the same. So, my dear academic friends and ladies and gentlemen, we should work hard. We should put our efforts together. We should think of making the region a transformed region, and years to come could be a better place to live in and can become an educational hub in the years to come in the light of NEP 2020. So for that matter, we are to work in a very concerted manner. So that's why I wish all the best, all the participants here for the present hearing, and we can just think about making a change happening through this NEP 2020. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your very informative and insightful deliberations. Some of the key takeaways that I may like to share with the audience regarding sir's deliberations are, he basically highlighted the significance of today's youth and tomorrow's future. And he also highlighted what is needed for India to become a global knowledge superpower. Sir has also highlighted the key concern areas of HEIs and also what are the various initiatives which are being taken for NEP implementation. The very important fact that he has highlighted that globally among the workforce receiving skill training, in India only 10%, whereas in Korea it is 96%. So we are very much lacking behind in this direction. And sir has also highlighted some key learning outcomes, their domains, that is a knowledge, skill, and third one, value and its applications. So I hope our participants will be immensely benefited with the sir's rich experience and his deliberations. So, sir, thank you very much, sir, for your for finding time to be with us. Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would
Thank you.
move
Thank
ahead
you.
with the.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I would like to move ahead with the program, and I would very happily would like to invite Professor Arvind Kumar, who is a Dean at Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has more than 20 years of experience of academics and industry. He is a certified entrepreneur educator from Stanford University, USA. He earned his post-graduation and PhD in management. He is a recipient of postdoctoral fellowship in USA. He has supervised several MPhil PhD students. He is a keen researcher, and his current research areas are CSR, academia, industry interface, consumer affairs, and social entrepreneurship. He has several research papers, articles published in national and international journals of repute. He has several books, monographs, and research projects in his credit. He has participated as an expert in national, international conferences, seminars, and workshops, and has been part of various panel discussions and also chaired a number of sessions. Sir, it is an honor to invite you to address our participants and all our guests. Over to Sir Arvind Kumar.
Thank you so much for your kind and very generous introduction. Very good afternoon to everyone. Professor G. Sangya, campus in charge, Tura campus. Professor Ivohal Mehti, Director, Center for Entrepreneurship, Skill Development, Manipur University. Professor B. Panda, Honorary Director, ICSSR, NERC, Ceylon. Dr. Deepak Bhagat, Dr. Sunil Dhru, LS Akojiam, and all participants. Very good afternoon to everyone. So after very comprehensive presentation made by Professor Ivohal, so much of my work has been done by Professor Ivohal. So the presentation made by him is a very, very comprehensive presentation. And let me also congratulate the NEHU and NERC Ceylon. I know Professor Panda, who is a great academician. So it's when we are deliberating here about national education policy towards an equitable and inclusive society. So when idea of equitable comes, so even this is also one of the example. If you look at this program, this webinar that has been organized at the ages of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and this is the webinar series third. So teaching, learning is a continuous process. It's continuation. And Professor Ivohal in its deliberation very categorically mentioned about quality of teaching, learning. So I completely agree. So I wholeheartedly congratulate the organizing team. And this webinar is jointly organized. So this is also a collaborative mode when we really deal with the whole idea of equitable and inclusive society. So there is no point of organizing any event or the teaching learning in isolation. We have to really work in collaborative mode, be it local collaboration, national collaboration, international collaboration. Second point that I want to make is NEP 2020 is in place, and a lot of universities, colleges, they are all set for implementing NEP 2020. And this webinar is also organized in a very thematic area, and that is on account of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Country is just completing 75 years of independence. So this is also kind of introspection for countries. So the last education policy that we had, it was in the year 1986. So long time it is need of the hour because the models of transactions, model of education, models of teaching learning has been immensely changed. So now is the time to change and respond accordingly. We all witnessed COVID-19 for last 3 years. So even last 3 years, we also changed. We also witnessed lost lot of different methods of teaching learning. So the ICT that we used to talk about, Digital India we used to talk about, it seems like a very dream, like very distant project, but it happened over the last 3 years. We all were practicing teaching learning through the digital mode. Or now everywhere we are doing in a hybrid mode. I will definitely talk about on the subject. Before going to the subject, let me share a few things. When you look at Dr. K. Kasturi Ranjan Committee, so one of my colleague, Professor Mazhar Asif, who is from Center of Russia, who is from Center of Persian and Central Asian Studies, School of Language, Literature and Cultural Studies. So he is also one of the member of NEP 2020. So this is one information that I want to share with the August gathering here. Second point, now the current chairman of University Grant Commission. So very recent, he elevated as a from Vice Chancellor JNU to as a chairman of University Grants Commission of India. So the point is very simple that my university is going to contribute a lot in terms of the concern raised by Professor Ivohal and eminent speaker of this webinar series. So there are few concerns, the points which have been already covered by Professor Ivohal. So I will not like to repeat the points that has been already made. So thank you, sir, for making my job simpler. But one important when we really talk about the inclusivity, so gross enrollment ratio is one of the concerns. So until unless we don't work on it, so this is one of the major concerns. So we cannot really think of inclusive policy NEP until unless we don't work on GER. So the target for NEP is set by 2035. We are expecting 50% of GER. So this is one area. When we really talk about exit policy, multiple entry, so I strongly believe that this is also one kind of inclusiveness because we never know which social or socio-economic background the students come. So we must keep in mind that this is also one of the feature of NEP. So NEP is empowering students in terms of multiple entry and multiple exit, keeping in mind their socio-economic conditions whenever they feel like to complete their degree. So NEP 2020 offering a lot of multiple exit and multiple entry. Before joining Jawaharlal Nehru University, I was with the University of Delhi. So University of Delhi already introduced 4 years undergraduate program, and these options were available. People can just pick up any area that they want to study. So there was no binding like once we have fixed the bucket. So you can just pick up the elective subject based on the offered bucket. So even in 4 year degree programs, a lot of choices were given to the students. Second point that I want to make is credit transfer and academic bank of credits. So academic bank of credit is known as a ABC. So Professor Ubohal in his deliberation very categorically talk about all institutions. So for example, someone wants to study 2 years with Delhi, 1 year in any state of northeast of India, so they can go. So there is a provision of academic bank of credits. So that is also great idea of NEP 2020. So credit transfer can be done. So that is also not confining any learner with one geographical region or one specific university. So 2 years may be spent with the Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and 1 year may be spent with the North Nehu, Shillong. So this is one of the idea. The next important point is there is also provision of autonomous degree granting colleges. So those who are interested, so very closely, not those who are interested, I can see in this room, everyone is academician or they have a great inclination towards academics. So they can just follow the policies of Commission. So a lot of inclination is there for autonomous degree granting colleges. Then there is also one of the important area called graded autonomy. So institutions will be given graded autonomy in terms of academic, administrative, and financial autonomy. So the idea of graded autonomy is, for example, if any of the University of Northeast India think this is maybe one of the popular program, so that university may pick up that area. They may design their own syllabus. They can also think of their academic and administrative and financial administration. So this is the whole idea in NEP 2020 on account of graded autonomy. Then there is also provision of national mission on mentoring. Next important area when we really look at the theme of equitable and inclusive society. So that area is that important area is independent board of governors. I come from a management background, so I understand well the whole idea of having an independent board of governors. So these are the people who may give you a very professional kind of inputs to take the institution of higher education in a very dynamic mode. So that provision is also there. There is provision of National Research Foundation. Then there is also internationalization of education. So when I was hearing my previous speaker, so he also talked about that when we look at the education system, especially higher education system in our country, so there are few you can count the higher education institutions on fingertips, and they are not figuring out into the QS or the ranking. So when the liberty is given, graded autonomy is given, so I strongly believe that the time will come. Our universities will also figure in top 100 QS Bird ranking. Now it's very difficult if you look at the current situation of QS Bird ranking. So hardly any university of our country is appearing in 100 QS Bird ranking institutions. They are, if you look at the slab of 500 to 600, so we are featuring into that bracket. But if NEP 2020 is introduced in its spirit and in principle, then I strongly believe that the time will come. Our institution will also feature within that bracket, and very proudly we can also say that our academic we are trying to achieve the academic excellence when it comes to the internationalization of higher education in India. I completely agree with the point that we must have a faculty exchange program. We must have student exchange program at local level, at national level, at international level. So that will give us an edge to become international player in higher education ecosystem. There is also one of the opportunity that I think a lot of focus is given to Indian knowledge system, languages, and culture and values. So when we really look at NEP 2020, our philosophy really believe in considering the planet as a home. We have one popular saying, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So when lot of focus is given to the Indian knowledge system, languages, culture, and values, so we can definitely think of imparting our ethos, our knowledge system, and our culture. And how that can be achieved? That can be achieved through student exchange program, faculty exchange program, even the supporting staff, which may be the administrative staff. So I also strongly recommend that we must have a exchange program of all stakeholders, so we can have a global learning. Very quickly, I want to move on to the next important area, which is use of technology. And when we really talk about the inclusivity part, so I think this is one area by the help of technology we can achieve inclusiveness. So there is a story about Eklavya, and I don't want to go again with the same context. But I believe if technology is there, so we may not find any kind of evidence in terms of discriminations. So that may be just addressed by the use of technology. For last 3 years during COVID-19, we all seen the contribution for teaching learning by the technology. So there are numerous ways of introducing technology: education planning, teaching learning and assessment. Now, so a lot of people are using various platforms. So they are immensely taking the help of technology. Even the recording attendance of the students, recording. There are various other platforms available at national and international levels. We also have various portals. Swayam portal is there. So I think when we really look at the inclusive part, so then the inclusiveness can be addressed through the technology as well. So a lot of focus can be given to the technology, and artificial intelligence may be an instrument of achieving the inclusiveness in NEP 2020. So there are a few things that I want to recommend. One is we must focus on theory to practice part. So we have a lot of for last 75 years in higher education ecosystem. So we have a lot of theoretical orientation. We have now the time has come where we have to really focus on theory to practice part. Whatever we have learned, so we can impart it. And how it can be done? It can be done through the internship or apprenticeship or more and more industry academia interface. So I will not go into the detail about that side. One specific session can be done on that, but definitely when once we are deciding the curriculum, so we must include industry, we must include some other parts, some other stakeholder to make it very comprehensive. Then within the technology, we also have in our society the differently abled people. So a lot of technological solutions are available, and inclusiveness can also be achieved in NEP in case if we are using or recommending Divyang friendly educational softwares, e-content in regional language. So that is also one of the instruments by which we can achieve the inclusiveness. Virtual labs can be set up. National Educational Technology Forum, NETF. So that I think is also one of the good idea. Then digitally equipping schools, teachers, students. So what I strongly feel that we must have ongoing capability building sessions for our teachers, our faculty colleagues. So because ultimately, until unless you don't empower the teachers, you can't really see the transformation that you are looking for from NEP 2020. So as a concerns, there are a few areas with recommendation that I'm trying to highlight. One area is theory to practice. Second area that I want to advocate is industry academia interface. So that is one area. And a lot of focus should also be given to the local paths. My association with Northeast India, and I'm very thankful that I have been invited by Nehu Ceylon for this session. But my affiliation and association with Northeast region, this is one of the great region of our country, and it has a lot of potentials. So Professor Ibohal was talking about so we may also attract a lot of foreign students, and they may spend some time with the universities of Northeast India. So the academic bank, the whole idea of ABC can be seen in Northeast India as well. So for me, I was very happy to visiting Northeast India, and this region is blessed by the nature. I was highly impressed with the flora and fauna and academic intellects of Northeast India. So we have a lot of potential, especially from any I or from NER. We can attract a lot of foreign students, those who want to come and spend some time in Delhi NCR. Some time can be spent or academic tourism. This is also one of the idea that people most of the time talk about. Third area that I want to recommend, and this is also one of the concern, social outreach program. Irrespective of the discipline the students is learning, so I strongly believe that there must be a provision of we can design our curriculum in such a way that may also focus on social outreach program. Thank you. With this note, I once again I congratulate the organizing team of webinar series and commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So I have one scheduled meeting. Otherwise, I wish to continue to speak on the subject. This is one of the important subject, and speaking with the academicians, speaking with your own fraternity is always a pleasure. And I must thank the organizer for the opportunity. With this note, thank you very much. I stop here. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your rich experience and insightful thoughts with us. Some of the key points that sir has highlighted is that NAP should be implemented in a collaborative mode. One of the cause of the concern that he has highlighted is that gross enrollment ratio in the country is very low, and it is a cause of concern which should be taken care of. Sir has also focused on innovative ideas of NAP, for example, graded autonomy, faculty exchange program, etc. Regarding the basic theme of this webinar, sir has also focused on use of technology in achieving the inclusiveness in NAP. He has also highlighted one of the very pertinent, important, and which is going to be the future, basically, I believe, is the use of artificial intelligence. It is going to affect all aspects of the world, including academia and academics. And sir has also highlighted on a social outreach program, its importance and how we can go ahead with this one. So, sir, thank you very much from our side for finding time to be with us despite your so busy schedule. We know, sir. So, we will again invite you in some other programs, and I hope you will join us, and our participants will be immensely benefited with your rich experience and deliberations. Sir, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Panda, thank you so much, sir.
It's a pleasure. Professor Arvind Kumar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's wonderful to listen all of you. Yeah.
So, Professor B Panda now, sir, is already there on your screen. I would like to invite him. Sir is today's chief guest, and sir is basically our mentor, and he is the guiding pillar of this webinar. And it is a sir's idea who has helped us in designing the whole 1 year program, that webinar series. Sir is there today as a chief guest. Professor B Panda, Honorary Director, Indian Council of Social Science Research, Northeastern Regional Center, Shillong. Sir, on the behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to invite you for giving the chief guest remarks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhagat. I think we have all little exceeded our time. So let me finish it up, maybe 10, 12 minutes, whatever I would like to speak on. So Professor Maitri and Professor Arvind Kumar, two of our eminent resource persons for today's program. Dr. Sunendra, all our faculty members from the Department of Management and other disciplines in Nehu, Tura campus, and also Shillong campus, students, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure on my part to be here itself as the chief guest. Of course, I had to do it because, I can't say no to Deepak. Coming straight to this, I think, Professor Maitri and Professor Kumar have elaborately given the broad contours of NEP, the challenges involved therein, and also some of the way out how to overcome these challenges and realize the objectives of NEP. I would just like to, in a sense, put all of them in the proper context. Now, see, when this NEP has its of course, it has a number of objectives, but when you put them together, 4 or 5 things come very, very, very explicit and clear. What are they? One is NEP wants that Indian higher education arrangement. I'm talking about higher education. I'm excluding school education here itself. It talks about making the Indian higher education system or the ecosystem global, number one. That is globalization of Indian higher education system. And it has its own rationale. I'll be talking about maybe after 2 minutes. Second, it would also like to have some kind of Indianness inbuilt or incorporated in that NEP package. And that Indianness would be supplementing to our envision or our vision of making Indian higher education system global. That would be a kind of a USP, whether it's based on our cultural arrangements, our values, our practices. So bringing them in, and then creating that Indian component, the Indianness component in the in the NEP. I think that would be our USP. Third thing is all about employability, and that skill concept, of course, comes in, which is an important objective for NEP. Then the fourth one, which is also very, very important, it's all about ensuring what we call equity, access, and then excellence, in higher education. Because as we all see, let me start with the last one, with the idea of having access or ensuring access, equity, inclusiveness, and excellence in higher education. It's an unequal world, as I think all of us see. Professor Maitri and also Professor Kumar, both of them have given a lot of data, particularly Professor Maitri, has extensively dealt with that. Let me supplement to it what he said, because many of us are from the northeastern part of this country. Look how unequal is this world when it comes to the higher education landscape of Northeast, vis-a-vis the whole country, and forget about the rest part of the world. The gross enrollment ratio, which Professor Maitri was talking about, when it comes to the Northeast, it's I think it's very, very low. The Indian average, if you go by the 2020 data, is around 27.1%. 27.1% is the Indian average. Now, there are 5 states in the Northeast, which includes Assam, wherein the gross enrollment ratio in higher education is, I think it's, it's less than the Indian average. For example, Assam, it's only 17%. Tripura, 20%, Nagaland, 18.5%, Meghalaya, 26.1%, Mizoram, 26.1%. So 5 of the states are having low or comparatively less gross enrollment ratio, in higher education compared to the whole country. One of the other indicator, dimension of higher education, let me come to it. That's all about student-teacher ratio. That is how many students are there per one teacher. So you compare the Northeastern situation with the Indian situation. 5 of the states here, again, in the Northeast, they're having worse, what you call, student-teacher ratio compared to the Indian average. The Indian average, as per the 2020, data of Government of India, is around 29, whereas there are 5 states in the Northeast, for example, Assam, and then so there are 5 states actually where the student-teacher ratio is worse compared to the whole country. Then when we look at the Indian situation, also the diaspora, see, look at a state like Bihar, wherein you find if you look at the teachers' profile there, then you would find in Bihar, for every 4 male teachers, there is only 1 female teacher. So that gender disparity, gender bias also is very much present itself. So it's not there are a lot of data which I can share, but then because of the paucity of time, these are all just indicative data which I wanted to tell all of you, so that you understand that the higher educational landscape in our country is unequal, and we have miles to go. And in that context, actually, the concept of access, equity, inclusiveness, and then excellence are extremely important. I won't go into the details how to do it. NEP has already stipulated all these things. Professor Moite in great detail has explained that. Now let me come to this globalization of higher education, which I talked about, some important objective of this NEP 2020. One of the most important, rationale for making our higher educational arrangement global is to, leverage higher education of our country and prepare our country to get the economic benefits. This is what very often I say. When you look at the structural transformation which is happening all across the country, world, and the way the developed countries are moving in order to create their value and remain competitive, economically competitive all across the world or at the global level, is by actually leveraging education as one of the critical, services, leading to generation of revenues. I think the moment, Europe at one point of time, or United States of America, or even non-China also, the moment they realized that they are losing the competitiveness in manufacturing, and then they are preparing themselves that, okay, they can now move to services sector, and within services sector also, since they're also finding they're facing steep competition from many other developing countries, particularly, what you call financial services, tourism, etc. So they are now trying to leverage education as an important service to earn good amount of foreign exchange and foreign, and revenues. And in that context, you can all see how, at one point of time from India, lakhs of crores of students are moving to United States of America, Europe, and now to China also for higher education. And when you compare that kind of situation with the Indian situation at present, what do you find? I think if you go by the 2020 data of the Government of India, you find the total number of foreign students who came to India for higher education was only 49,000. So that 49, and then 99% of them, 98% of them came to India on some bilateral, arrangement, like under that ICCR, Indian Council of Cultural Relations arrangement. So these are all bilateral exchange programs. We don't get much of foreign revenue from that kind of a thing. So education as a source of generating foreign revenue, or you can say foreign exchange, this precious foreign exchange, to add to our national wealth, I think hardly it's a very, very intense stage. It's in fact actually doesn't contribute that much anything to our exchequer or our national income. But then we have, if you want to be a global power, we need, as Professor Maithei was telling, that if you want to be a global power, then you have to also an educational power. To be an educational power, we need to have all these kind of reforms, and we need to prepare ourselves. So that's all about the globalization arrangement. And what are the the important components of that globalized higher education? As many of them have said, briefly, let me touch upon multidisciplinary arrangement, which we'll talk about. Then the focus on research, and particularly linking theory with empirics. That's very, very important, and we do not have that kind of a thing. As we do have in a very, very, I think, rudimentary way, we bring in this kind of a linkage, but then what is required is that we need to have more of such a, linkage between theory and empirics. Then employability, of course, we have to, increase, and skill set, enhancement we need to have. Then flexible pedagogy and content, that also we need. And then another important component of your globalization of higher education is considering or taking education and skill formation as a continuum over one's lifespan. Not see, as it exists today, we think education or skill formation only a one-type arrangement, one-time thing. But in the globalized higher education system, maybe in states or in the rest of the universities of the world, education and skill formation is considered to be a continuum over one's lifespan. I think that's one of the important requirements of globalized higher education. And in all these important dimensions, I think we need to do a lot. We have to go miles. And keeping all these things in view, I think there's a paucity of time. So I would just like to summarize that, friends, NEP 2020 has great potential to make India as an educational power. And not only as an educational power, it also wants India to be an economic power in days to come by leveraging higher education as a source of critical foreign exchange, or for that matter, significantly contributing to our GDP, our GNP, gross national product. There are, I think for that, actually it's a journey. And we have just started this journey. We are now understanding the challenges that we would like to encounter in the process of that journey. And that's a good thing that we're all deliberating upon here itself. And we're able to inform ourselves, acquaint ourselves with the kind of challenges that there are in the process of that journey. And then only, once we know the challenges, then only we can find out the ways and means how to overcome it. And I'm sure, webinars like this arranged by the Department of Management, Tura, of course, we are collaborating with them, will go a long way, at least creating that, first thing is creating that information flow arrangement. Information asymmetry is a big problem in understanding and mapping out many of the requirements. And it's good that these kind of webinars, I hope they would be, and in fact they are very, very helpful in, first of all, creating that awareness. And then after awareness, of course, we can move to the next stage, that how do you find mechanisms to cope up with the requirements and the challenges that we expect to face in days to come in implementation of NEP 2020. So with these words, I once again thank Dr. Deepak and his whole team for giving me this opportunity to share some of my own thoughts on this very occasion. Thank you so much, Deepak, and it's over to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being the chief guest of today's edition of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav webinar series, which is on National Education Policy 2020 towards an equitable and inclusive society. Sir, there are a lot of key takeaways, but I can from your speech, but I believe that you are also having some time constraint. So I won't go much into detail, but two important things that I understood and I will take from you is that the globalization of higher education and NEP, which will lead to become India a economic superpower. Now, I will agree with Sir that it is a journey which has started, and we promise to all our participants that in this journey we will meet again with much more deliberations, much more academic programs, and we will invite resource persons which will help us in achieving our dreams. So, thank you very much, Sir, for finding time to be with us and being the chief guest of this webinar. Now, coming to the end of today's program, I would like to invite Dr. Sunildra L.S. Akoijam to propose the formal vote of thanks. Over to Dr. Sunildra.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak Bhagat. Good afternoon, everyone. So, being one of the coordinator for this webinar, it gives me an immense pleasure in proposing the vote of thanks for this third webinar of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav webinar series on National Education Policy 2020 towards an equitable and inclusive society. For organizing this series, we have got support from several corners. So, first of all, I like to thank the campus in charge of Nehutura campus, Professor G. Singhaya. Under his able leadership, we have organized several programs in the past also, and many are in the pipeline. So we like to thank him once again for his constant motivation and support. Next, I like to thank the chief guest of today's webinar, Professor B. Panda sir, who is the honorary director of ICSSR NERC Shillong. As Dr. Bigal said, that sir is our mentor. Before becoming director, also sir was our dean, and during his tenure, we have got numerous support, and particularly since becoming director, we have been able to get the financial support also. So for that, sir, we like to thank you very much once again. And with your support and motivation, we hope that we will be able to continue with series of program in the months to come. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I'd like to thank our first speaker for today's webinar, Professor C.S. Ibol Maitar, Director, Center for Entrepreneurship and Skill Development, Manipur University, for his insightful and informative sessions. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time and making it for this particular session. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I'd like to thank our second resource person for this webinar, Professor Arvind Kumar, Dean, Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, teaching and enlightening sessions. We like to thank you, sir, once again for your valuable time, and we hope that we'll keep getting such kind of support in the future academic programs also. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I'd like to thank the coordinator, Dr. Deepak Bhagat, of this webinar series for his cooperations and the support for successfully organizing this series. Thank you so much, sir. Next, I'd like to thank all colleagues of Nehutura campus family for all the cooperation that they have extended in several forms in making this particular series a success. Last but not least, I'd like to thank all the participants, including students, research scholars, faculties from the Nehutura campus, as well as the participants from other universities and institutes as well. With your valued participation, we can say that we can consider our webinar successful. So thank you once again to all participants. With this, I once again thank each one of you who, in spite of your busy schedule, you are able to make it for this particular third webinar. So we expect such kind of support for the upcoming webinar also. Thank you. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you. I can see Sultana also is here itself. So nice to see you here.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you, sir.
Good, actually, that Tura campus is organizing so many programs, and
Yes.
we are able to be a part of that. That's a pleasure on my part. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
We'll call it a day.
Hopefully, sir, we'll be meeting soon face to face.
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
That will
Yes,
be.
sir. Thank
So
you.
then,
Thank you.
yeah. So we'll call it a day then, Dr. Deepak.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Professor Kumar, if you are there, goodbye from my side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I am there. And
Okay.
good to see you, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
We'll meet soon, sir. We will meet soon, sir.
hopefully we'll meet very soon.
sir, if you can
Right.
switch on your video, we can just take a screenshot, sir.
I'm just going for a meeting, so I'm driving.
Yeah.
But let me just try. Let me just try. Yeah. So can you see me now?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes. Sir, just a second, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Done, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
take your leave. Professor Panda, it was pleasure meeting you again.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
everyone for inviting me.
It's always a pleasure. I think very soon we'll be also meeting in Delhi. So now
Right, sir.
pandemic is
Right.
over. So we'll be
You're
meeting
most
very soon.
welcome. And I also take this opportunity to invite everyone at JNU New Delhi. So
Sure,
I'll
sir.
take your leave. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I take leave, huh? Okay, bye.
Leaving. सर लॉग आउट कर रहे हैं सर.